There are certain moments where you walk around, particularly ancient architecture, older architecture, and you get a perspective in which all of a sudden the entire ritual of the place becomes clear. You walk into Chartres, you stand by the nave, and there is a sense of the entire ritual of the Mass. I remember traveling in Egypt and coming to Luxor and just standing in the temple, Karnak, for example, and getting a sense of the ritual of life that was part of that architecture. I think that there is in us a hunger, or maybe a thirst, for the rituals of life. I find it very exciting when architecture, particularly public architecture, rises to the occasion of giving that sense of ritual. So when I came to design the National Gallery in Ottawa, I felt the National Gallery is not just any museum, it's the National Gallery, it's next to Parliament. There would be important events here. It is the national treasures of art. I think the best expression of what the National Gallery came to mean, apart from being an important art museum for the country, is that it deals with the ceremony of public life. And my decision to have the entry pavilion that faces the city, the grand colonnade rising, slowly ascending to the Great Hall. The Great Hall has a transparent great room that overlooks Parliament and the Library of Parliament and the Ottawa River. The transparency of all of that to the public life outside the building led to the fact that it's become the singular place of official ceremonies and heads of state dinners and events of state in Ottawa. I was not asked to design a place where all the heads of state would be celebrated and the official dinners, but I created a place that became that. When I go to the opening of a project, and it's almost now a pattern, I go to Salt Lake and people make me feel that their life has changed because of that library, that the city has changed because of that library, that their view of their own city has changed because the city has built this place. My commitment as an architect is to the city, to the environment as a whole, which is made up of many building types, to understanding what shapes the city.
To shape a city or to create one. In the 1990s, Moshe Safdie was given his greatest opportunity since Habitat 67 to make his mark on the urban environment.
This is the Modi'in department, and you can see some progress photographs of the construction of the city. Modi'in was totally vacant land, owned by the government, no agriculture, used by the army for training. So I think people have had an eye on it for a long time. In fact, some of the earliest master plans for Israel done in the 50s talked about a new city being built there. And so as we started working at the plan at leisure, and nobody took us too seriously, it was not a big competition, we were just given it on a platter and said, start conceiving of a city in this place, the immigration started pouring in. And that gave it completely different dimension. All of a sudden now this was emergency because people were coming in big numbers into the country and the pressure was increasing. And it was quite an amazing process to be able to conceive of a city, not as an architect, but as a city designer, but with models, three-dimensional, every building shape, height determined on model, and seeing it happen through a whole process of drawings and developers and their own architects, but there it's coming out just as we conceived it. What we wanted to do here is break away from the project-look new towns of autonomous neighborhoods and create a much more vital and normal city. And the conceptual idea is to create spines of community. Rather than disjoint one neighborhood from the other, we create a city which is like a tree. From the town center, there are spines of activity that radiate outwards in linear formation and bring together the neighborhoods. And the land gave us the cue, because the land was made of valleys and ridges, valley and ridges. So each valley became a spine of community. And once we had that idea, everything fell into place.